Hi everyone, I'm Jess, and today I'm speaking with Fertessa Allyse, who is a board game designer and publisher with Funko Games. Hi Fertessa, thank you so much
Hello,
for
nice to
joining.
meet you. Thank you.
So, can you tell me a little bit about how you got into board gaming?
Sure. I got into board gaming at an early age, but it was just kind of the mass market gaming. So
Hmm.
my mom would teach me, Monopoly or checkers, things like that. My mom and my grandpa really introduced me into loving games and loving the social aspect of it. But the actual hobby I didn't get into until 2017 when I tried to design my first board game. I didn't know that the hobby existed or how deep it went
Oh wow.
because I only knew what was in the stores. But through like exploring the internet, I saw the rabbit hole and then I jumped. So
And your first board game is actually going to Kickstarter pretty soon, right?
yes, yes. So my first game, Book of Villainy, I started it 2017 and got it signed 2019, and here we are down the road, and it is finally ready for its Kickstarter on Monday, June 7th. So
It's a
very
whirlwind.
excited. Yes.
So, tell me a little bit about Book of Villainy.
So, Book of Villainy, you are a villain, but you're not very good at it. So, you've decided to make a book about being a villain instead. So, players are going around in this kind of rondel and they are collecting these pages for their book. And the way that you score is based off of how you collect these pages and how you arrange them. So, we went all in on the page theme, and we have like chapters, and if they're ordered correctly, that's great because you don't want your actual book to be out of order, and different themes and things like that. And you score based off of that. So the best book of villainy wins.
Awesome. Where did you get the inspiration for something like this?
So you may not know this about me, but I have what they call a resting mischief face. Um, and so, like, if I'm playing any sort of game, particularly the social deduction games, I just naturally look mischievous, and I always get pinpointed as
Oh
the
yeah.
one that's up to no good. So when I realized that board game making was a theme and I could make a board game, I was like, villains. I don't know
Yes.
what about them, but it's going to be about villains. That way, no matter what I play, everybody's a villain and you can't pin me out. So,
I have the opposite. I have a very good poker face, but I'm always the traitor. So people automatically always pick me as the traitor.
yes, I always want to be the traitor, but it's never me.
Oh. So tell me a little bit about your journey to become a board game designer. Not everyone gets into that, and I know it's sort of a tough thing to join, but I imagine it's very rewarding.
Yes. So, um, I went about things a bit opposite in the
Mhm.
fact that I got into wanting to make a board game first and then the hobby, through trying to explore what game design actually meant and how people did it. Um, Initially, I was just trying to figure out, like, how do you make things happen in a board
Mhm.
game? What kind of resources are there out there? And I stumbled onto BGG while doing that, and that was just a huge, you know, books worth of information that I certainly became aware of. And through exploring that, I started going going to different meetups
Mhm.
to play games, and trying to explore what different mechanics were. Like worker placement took me, I feel like, 8 months to figure out what worker placement was
Yeah.
because everyone has a different definition, and until you play it, it's hard to kind of grasp that. um, but like exploring games through actually playing and then meeting people, um, I just kept going deeper and deeper into the hobby, and suddenly I ended up making a legitimate game. And re-clarify what your initial question was, because
Oh,
I
it was sort of just asking, what was your journey like? What challenges did you face, or how
Mhm.
did you find just progressing from a game player who maybe wasn't as familiar with the hobby game to suddenly, now you're going to be publishing your first game.
Yeah. I would say some of the biggest challenges were kind of qualifying myself as a designer, because in coming to these new spaces, I was often either the only woman or the only minority present. And sometimes I would just check both boxes as the only woman and the only minority. And with dealing with that, I also had to kind of, ask questions, because if you just sit there being quiet, you never find out anything. But whenever I would put myself out there to ask questions, you'd have the super helpful people, but you also have the people that kind of slap you down because they feel like you've gone too far, before you've made the baby steps that they have deemed appropriate. Like, before you even start making a game, have you played this game? Or, how can you do this before you've done this? And so, that first year, there was a struggle with really feeling validated as a designer and feeling like I deserved to be called that or be where I was. So like forming my identity within the board gaming community was one challenge. But the other thing was I'm introvert. I was a lot more introverted when I started. So that was another challenge, because board game design in itself is a very social thing. Because it's hard to succeed without networking. And especially because it's such a tight-knit community, you get a lot more from it if you are able to engage with the community and give back. So those were some things where I had to push myself out of my my comfort zone and figure out how to do. As far as my journey, when it comes to the skill of actually play testing with people and creating things over and over, that I actually had practice with my previous school experience, life experience, because I went to school for fine arts, digital media, and I've always been creating something, whether it's writing stories or filming videos, do little YouTube things. So I always wanted to express myself in some way, but it just turned out that board games were like the best way for me to do that and actually get the social interaction that I was craving from people. So like, because I went to the fine arts school, I was familiar with getting feedback, harsh feedback, and, having to still like soldier on and make something else. And I was able to also verbalize when I was giving critiques, without like curbing what I was saying and without being cruel either, because I felt honesty is very important whenever you're trying to create something. So like being able to do that was my way to contribute to the community, even before I had a lot of knowledge on like the technical aspects of game design. And it helped me be comfortable with the creative process, and like kind of make it easier to really pick up the pace when it came to the creation aspect of game design.
Yeah, I feel you. I come from a very similar background of being very introverted, but a creative person, and getting into the whole board game business was very eye-opening. I had to learn a whole new skill set of interacting with humans.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't your only game, though. You have a couple more coming in the pipe, right?
Yes. So I've been working, there are two other games. Well, there are a lot of other games, but as an independent game designer, I have two other games. And the second one is called Wicked and Wise. Mm-hmm. And it is an asymmetrical trick-taking game that you play as a team. And you are like a dragon and mouse team, where the dragon's in charge of the trick-taking and the mouse is in charge of like managing the team's money and like getting the dragon more powerful cards. So it's almost card manipulation.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by spades because I actually am not huge on cooperative games,
Hmm.
but I wanted to challenge myself on, if I created a cooperative game, what would that look like? And to me, true cooperation was being able to work as a team and like being able to depend on the person across from you without necessarily knowing what was in their hand.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought that that would be a fun kind of mechanic to incorporate, and made Wicked and Wise, and then teamed up with Carla at Weird Giraffes, and she helped me make it into this really, really beautiful game, illustrated by Beth Sobel.
Oh
And
God, yeah.
I'm so excited for
You've got a
that.
dream team right there. I love Carla and Beth. They're wonderful.
Yes, yes. I couldn't be happier with how that's turned out. And then the game after that, during pandemic, actually, I was approached by a local game designer, because I'm in Seattle now, but previously I lived in Atlanta, and I was approached by Mondo because he was interested in co-designing a game, a party game. He was like, let's make a game about mansplaining. And I was just like, okay, all right, let's see what we can do with it. And through some way or another, we managed to, through email, design this game about mansplaining. And, digital playtesting really started to take off at the beginning of the pandemic. And we play tested it there to the point where it felt very polished very quickly. So we managed to pitch that and get it signed. And so mansplaining, it'll be going to stores. That's signed with Breaking Games.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that should hopefully be coming out in the next 12 months. But yes, that is very fun. I actually just played it last night. So
Awesome. So now, having 3 games under your belt that you're publishing, what sort of advice would you give somebody who's just getting into designing games and trying to find their place in that?
Yeah. So if you're just getting started with designing games, one of the biggest things I would stress is that you need to become a part of the community. You need to figure out how you're comfortable on establishing your role within the community, because there are so many different things. There's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's Board Game Geek. And I know a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable with social media. So I often advise that you pick just one, and you make it into a habit. When I started, because I didn't have a Twitter at all, but I made a Twitter, and then I made the goal that I would go onto Twitter, and at least twice a day, I would find someone or some way to interact with somebody. And that's not like making a post and being like, hey, check out my game. That's not interacting. But like scrolling through, finding relevant people to follow. And then also, if somebody says, hey, what should I name my cat? I don't know, Mr. Blinkers. Looks great, Just making it a habit to, interact with people and actually make human connections, genuine connections. That's what I did with that. And then Board Game Geek, I made the same goal of, log in and try to find at least one post to comment on. Because again, I mentioned before that kind of my biggest challenge was feeling validated as a game designer, especially being very new. But something to help combat that was find something that I was comfortable with talking about. And for me, it was being able to help critique like the art or, read somebody's rule book. People are always looking for that. So finding one thing you can comment on and doing that on like a daily or weekly level, depending on, I didn't have a family, so I could do that. But, if you have a huge workload, figure out some way to make it regular and continue doing that. If you're really passionate about it, then it's very important to make the time for it and schedule it. Schedule the time for your passion, especially if you have a lot of things going on in your life. And then take opportunities. I joined game contests before I thought I was ready.
Yeah.
just to see what would happen. And that ended up being huge for me. And, you know, just again, making those connections, because those same people would turn around and they would message me and let me know about other opportunities that I never would have seen.
Yeah.
Applying for these scholarships. There are a lot of scholarships and sponsorships out there, especially if you're financially challenged, or you know, just trying to increase diversity out there at these conventions and in the gaming industry in total. So take advantage of opportunities, no matter if you feel validated or not. You deserve to be here, and you know this industry lives and breathes as more people, you know, contribute and join it. So, you know, be a part of it. And that is probably the biggest advice I could give.
It's a wonderful message between, no matter who you are, you belong here, and everything you add to it, like, our industry is better for all the different peoples and voices joining it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. So, what do you think's next for you? You've got 3 games, like, that's a lot. Where are you going now?
So I'm actually I've just made full time at Funko Games as a game producer. So I'm really excited about that, and it's a very interesting environment because one, there is such a diverse amount of people that I'm working with, and I've never worked in a collaborative environment where everybody is kind of working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, that I have those 3 games as an independent designer, but over here I've already worked on, I feel like, 7 games.
Oh, wow.
It's just because, you know, one person may be assigned to like look at the timeline of the game, but all of us are contributing, playtesting, helping develop these games, and like just challenging myself in that environment, and having to create games to certain budgets, to certain IPs, and in this very collaborative process is just something entirely new to me, especially doing it like full time.
Yeah.
So I'm just really really happy to be cutting my teeth on this kind of opportunity. And so that's my really big thing over the horizon as I wait for my games to go to Kickstarter.
That sounds awesome. I'm jealous. Well, thank you again so much for sitting down and talking with me about your games. It's like super exciting, and I can't wait to see the Kickstarter come out. Which I will remind everyone, Fertessa's Book of Villainy is hitting Kickstarter on June 7th, so make sure to go visit. I'll put links in the description below for you to check out. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. And if anybody ever wants to try out the digital version, message me and I will set it up on Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Hi, thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more, check out either of these playlists. And make sure to hit the G to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications for when we publish. Also, if you like what we do, please consider joining our Patreon. I have links in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next game.